Introduction. Imagine facing an invisible enemy, one that can't be seen, can't be heard, but can kill thousands in minutes. Chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons represent the most terrifying threats humanity has ever created. Standing between these weapons of mass destruction and the American people is a specialized group of soldiers known as the Dragon Soldiers. This is the U.S. Army Chemical Corps, commonly called CBRN Specialists, the last line of defense against the deadliest weapons ever devised. What is the Chemical Corps? The Chemical Corps is a special branch of the United States Army responsible for preventing and combating any attack on the United States involving chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear weapons, collectively known as weapons of mass destruction or WMDs. On top of their primary role, CBRN units specialize in training other military personnel in basic knowledge and awareness surrounding these threats. They teach soldiers how to recognize the signs of a chemical attack, how to protect themselves, and how to continue fighting even in contaminated environments. The unit is commonly referred to as CBRN, pronounced CBRN, as an abbreviation, and their members have earned the nickname Dragon Soldiers, a title that dates back over a century to the First World War. The origins of the Chemical Corps date back to World War I, the first conflict that saw extensive use of chemical weapons. Poison gas became a common tactic used by both sides in trying to overcome the stalemate created by trench warfare. Chlorine gas, phosgene, and mustard gas turned the battlefields of Europe into nightmarish landscapes where soldiers suffocated in their own trenches. When the United States entered the war in late 1917, they found that they had to quickly react to the enemy's vast experience in chemical warfare. American soldiers were woefully unprepared for this new form of combat. So on June 28, 1918, the U.S. military formed the Chemical Warfare Service to develop both offensive chemical weapons and defensive measures to protect troops. In 1920, Congress made it an official branch of the Army. The Dragon Soldiers, as they were called at the time, adopted their branch insignia, a purple benzene ring over two crossed gold retorts. The insignia still stands as the symbol of the Corps today. The dragon symbolizes the deadly breath of chemical weapons, while the retorts represent the scientific knowledge required to understand and counter these threats. At the bottom of the crest is a Latin phrase that translates to, "We rule the battle through the elements." Between the World Wars, at the end of World War I, the Chemical Warfare Service continued working on the development of offensive and defensive capabilities for chemical warfare. Despite mounting public disapproval of such weapons, the United States was among the few countries that refused to ratify the 1925 Geneva Convention ruling, which aimed to limit the use of chemical weapons. This decision was controversial, but military planners argued that America needed the capability to respond in kind if an enemy used chemical weapons first. The philosophy was simple: the best deterrent against chemical attack was the credible threat of retaliation. World War II. Preparation without use. Unlike World War I, the use of chemical weapons in World War II was on a far smaller scale. All major powers involved had developed and stockpiled large quantities of chemical and biological weapons, yet they refrained from using them due to the fear of retaliation from the opposing side. It was a deadly game of mutual deterrence. However, the constant threat of Germany and Japan using their chemical weapons forced the United States Army to significantly increase their investment in the Chemical Warfare Service. Several installations were built to produce and develop weapons and to train personnel for chemical warfare-related operations. More than 400 chemical warfare service companies were formed during the war, numbering more than 60,000 military personnel. They played a key role in equipping and training regular Army units to recognize the symptoms of chemical weapon use. Dragon Soldiers also provided combat support with M2 4.2-inch mortars, known as the Fordus, or chemical mortars. These were capable of launching white phosphorus-based smoke shells, TNT high-explosive shells, and HD sulfur mustard gas shells over a distance of 4,400 yards, or about 2.5 miles. While primarily used for smoke screens and high explosives, the capability to deliver chemical weapons remained as a deterrent. The Cold War era. After World War II, the Chemical Warfare Service was reduced in size, but it continued with its mission. In 1946, the service was officially redesignated as the Chemical Corps, reflecting its expanding role beyond just warfare to include defense and detection. During the Vietnam War, between 1955 and 1975, the Chemical Corps developed a variety of weapons designed primarily to disrupt the enemy's concealment capabilities. They began to develop weapons such as napalm, an incendiary mixture which had a devastating effect on its target. However, the most notorious chemical weapon was Agent Orange, a herbicide used to destroy large areas of dense forest that provided cover to Viet Cong fighters. The controversy surrounding the health problems caused by Agent Orange turned the public against the use of chemical weapons and against the Chemical Corps, which was again under threat of disbandment. The Corps fell into difficult times until the 1980s, when the rise of chemical and biological warfare capabilities of certain Middle Eastern countries posed a new threat to American interests in the region. Modern threats, the 21st century. By the beginning of the Gulf War in 1990 to 1991, the Army had established 28 active-duty chemical defense companies, with each regular Army unit having at least one CBRN specialist in its ranks. The threat of Iraqi chemical weapons was taken extremely seriously, and American forces deployed with full protective gear and detection equipment. By the beginning of the 21st century, the threat of attacks has only increased. The capability of chemical and biological warfare has passed from regular Army and government control to individual terrorist groups. The 1995 Tokyo subway sarin gas attack, the use of chemical weapons in Syria, and the constant threat of dirty bombs or biological terrorism have made CBRN defense more critical than ever. This rising concern has led to an increase in the development of U.S. military installations and facilities designed to protect against chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear hazards. The Chemical Corps has evolved from an offensive force to primarily a defensive one, focused on detection, protection, and decontamination. Becoming a Dragon Soldier, the training. Candidates who wish to become members of the Chemical Corps must first pass through the United States Army CBRN School. The school is located at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, home to the Chemical Corps and known among soldiers as the place where you learn to fight in the most extreme conditions imaginable. Over the course of the training, future CBRN specialists are trained to detect and deal with situations caused by chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. That is, weapons of mass destruction. While some courses are intended for the development of individual skills, equally important are those which develop teamwork. CBRN defense requires complex organizational skills and operations with minimal margin for error. To become an Army CBRN specialist, candidates join the MOS 74D, which stands for Military Occupational Specialty 74 Delta course. The regimental crest is blue and gold, taken from the 1st Chemical Regiment's coat of arms, and shows a dragon along with a war-torn tree trunk, which was all they could use for sighting weapons during World War I. The gas chamber, a rite of passage. Part of Army basic training involves an experience that every soldier remembers for the rest of their lives: the gas chamber. Squads line up wearing respirators and enter a sealed building where CS gas, a riot control agent, is released. After familiarizing themselves with the impaired coordination effects of wearing the mask, they are then ordered to remove them and exit the fume-filled room in an orderly manner. Once outside in the fresh air, there's a lot of coughing, choking, and spitting, as well as trying to wipe the tears away from their watering eyes. The experience is designed to accomplish two things. First, it builds absolute confidence in the protective equipment. Soldiers learn that their masks work and will keep them alive. Second, it exposes them to what a chemical attack feels like, so they won't panic if they ever face the real thing. The experience stays with them for the rest of their military careers, but they will be able to react and put on their respirators in seconds when they have to. In a chemical attack, seconds can mean the difference between life and death. Advanced training. After finishing the initial training, CBRN specialists are taught various skills to enhance their responses. Awareness. recognizing the signs of a chemical, biological, or radiological attack. Detection, using sophisticated equipment to identify specific agents. Decontamination, procedures to remove or neutralize hazardous materials. Protection, proper use of protective equipment. First aid, treating casualties of WMD attacks. Command and control, coordinating large-scale defensive operations. Another critical part of their course involves exposure to toxic agents while wearing their protective suits. This isn't about suffering, it's about confidence. CBRN specialists need to know with absolute certainty that their equipment works and that they can function effectively while wearing it. The job of a CBRN specialist requires not only great theoretical knowledge, but also a lot of practical skills, especially the ability to work under pressure for prolonged periods. In a real WMD scenario, there's no room for hesitation or error. Duties in the field. Once the training is over and the candidates join the ranks of the Dragon soldiers, they're deployed to various units throughout the Army. The duties for a CBRN specialist involve not only handling related threats, but also providing training and supervision regarding the proper use of CBRN equipment among their fellow soldiers, whatever their rank might be. In the field, specialists use a variety of technical devices for detection and handling of threats. These include chemical agent detectors that can identify nerve agents, blister agents, and blood agents. Radiation detectors for radiological and nuclear threats. Biological agent detection systems. Decontamination equipment ranging from portable units to large-scale systems. The protective equipment, Level A suit. The most important aspect of their role, however, is their personal protective equipment, or PPE. Protection suits are designed primarily to protect against injuries that may occur when handling any hazardous material in any situation. Protection is not only paramount for the body, but also for the respiratory system, eyesight, and hearing. There are different PPE sets in use, depending on requirements. In cases where the highest degree of protection is needed, a Level A set is used. It consists of a fully encapsulating chemical protective suit, a protective hood, an inner and outer set of chemical-resistant gloves, chemical-resistant boots, a positive pressure self-contained breathing apparatus. The protective suit is made of chemical-resistant material and provides protection against liquids, vapors, and aerosols. It's designed to be air-permeable, lightweight, and ergonomic to provide comfort to the specialist inside. Though comfort is a relative term when you're sealed inside what's essentially a hazmat suit. The same material is used for the hood, to which a mask is attached. This may either be a breathing filter with active carbon or a self-contained breathing apparatus, similar to what firefighters or scuba divers use. The challenges of the job. The primary role of the PPE is to protect the specialists in the field, and even though it's designed to provide as much comfort as possible, it does have some limitations. While wearing the suit, movement is restricted due to the heavyweight nature of the PPE. Vision is limited due to the face protection. Communication is difficult through the thick material and breathing apparatus. Psychological stress occurs due to the confinement. Heat stress builds up rapidly inside the sealed suit. Dehydration becomes a serious concern. It's estimated that the Level A PPE cannot be worn continuously for more than 30 minutes under normal conditions. In hot environments or during strenuous activity, that time can be even shorter. Imagine trying to work in 100-degree heat while wearing a sealed rubber suit with a respirator on your face, knowing that any tear or breach could expose you to a lethal chemical agent. That's the reality for CBRN specialists when they respond to a real threat. The modern mission. Considering the conditions involved when working directly with highly toxic and other lethal agents, and in operations where weapons of mass destruction are a real threat, the job of the CBRN specialist stands as one of the most challenging occupations in the United States Army. These soldiers are the nation's first responders to the worst-case scenario. When everyone else is evacuating from a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear incident, CBRN specialists are moving toward it. They're the ones who go in to identify what the threat is, how dangerous it is, and how to neutralize it. Conclusion. From the poison gas attacks of World War I to the threat of terrorist-deployed dirty bombs in the 21st century, The Chemical Corps has evolved and adapted to meet every challenge. The Dragon Soldiers represent a unique blend of scientist, soldier, and first responder. Individuals who must think clearly and act decisively in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. They are the last line of defense against weapons designed to kill on a massive scale. They train for scenarios we all hope will never happen. But if the worst does occur, these specialists stand ready to protect their fellow soldiers and the American people from threats that remain invisible until it's too late. That's why they're called the Dragon Soldiers, because like the dragons of legend, they faced the fire that would consume us all. And through their knowledge, courage, and dedication, they ensure that the elements of death are ruled by those who would protect life. We rule the battle through the elements.